Hello, Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. Everyone has an opinion. They are the ways we connect with other people. And it's pretty natural to hang with people that agree with our general outlook in life. After all, culture's built on commonalities. Nothing, but nothing, is that simple. And we're bound to disagree about something somewhere down the line. Is that a deal breaker? Or a moment to dive deeper into the very stuff that makes us human? I talked with the owner of One Path Coaching about community and enjoyed every moment. I hope you do too. And now, Jason Gerardo. Hey, greetings everyone. Joy Brooks with Email and Coffee. I'm talking with Jason Gerardo, a friend who I've done some other conference calls with, webinars with, and we're going to talk about we're going to talk about something. So we're going to talk. Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself and let's begin the conversation.
Great. Well, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here with you in the community. And yes, we've done some work with Lowry and had some other conversations. And I'm so glad to join you on your program. Thank you for inviting me. As you said, my name is Jason Gerardo. My company is One Path. I go by One Path Coaching, but it's transitioning into One Path Healing because that's truly who I am. I've been a healer since I was a little guy, and that's been my journey. And not to go on all that today, but it's been a lifelong journey to figure it out and to be able to live my purpose. And that's what I'm doing now is I have a full-time company. I see clients one-on-one. I do podcasts like this. I have different shows. I do in-person events. I'm out in Winters, California, which is out by Sacramento. I lived in the Bay Area for a lot of years. I lived in Southern California for a few years. So we're having some really great weather right now. But my journey has been, like I said, I've been a healer. And then around 2000, I decided I wanted to go to neurolinguistic programming. I got trained in that and hypnosis, timeline therapy, really just putting stuff in the toolbox. Most of us want to be of service and help people, but you have to have a way to be of service and help people that you can actually quantify. And so I train in that, and I'm now trained in polyvagal theory, mindfulness and meditation, really just helping people connect. We'll talk about community today, and I really think about the three connections, and the connection to self, connection to others, community, and connection to something bigger than us, higher power, whether you call that God, source, Gaia, spirit, creator, a lot of names. And I just mention that because it's, what's personal to you and what works for you. And so within those connections, I think community is very important.
Yeah, you mentioned what did you call it?
Neurolinguistic programming.
Neurolinguistic. The other day, my friend said to me, "Oh, I'm going to a weekend, and it's going to be a meditation weekend, and they're going to teach us, we're going to just do a little beginner's meditation." I said, "Oh, they're going to use the voice on you." And she goes, "What?" And I'm like, just whoever it is that starts, just listen to her voice, because the person that really can lead you, like Lydia can lead you into meditation, has a special voice. Because if you are listening to someone who's trying to teach you how to get into that meditative space, if you're listening
Right.
to somebody with a really annoying voice, you're going to be so busy saying that voice is so damn annoying. And I've actually been in a few different sessions with, doing meditation. And I have, Lydia's one of my favorites because very soothing voice. Another friend of mine, Liz Fink, another very natural, soothing voice. I am one of those people. I don't know if I can't be hypnotized. That's not what I'm necessarily saying, but I have a problem letting go into meditation. I can take a walk with my dogs and empty my mind. I can lay down and sleep and do box breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very, I don't know how to explain it, very stressful to try to meditate. I'm going to meditate now. I can't do that. I'm going to walk the dogs now. Yes. And it's just natural for me to be like, oh, look up there, or look at this, or look at that, oh, smell this. I'm just going with the flow. I'm not out there saying, and now that I'm walking the dogs, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to solve a problem today. I generally walk, and when I get back home, the problem's solved, and I haven't even thought about it. But it just comes to me. So, when you're taught to teach people how to meditate, we'll get into community in a second, but when you're taught how to teach people how to meditate, what's that like?
So, it's very interesting you bring this up because, serendipity, things kind of tie into each other. And the other day, I love books. I love used books because they recycle and you can find things at these gyms. I was in my favorite used bookstore the other day and I found a book it just really looked interesting to me. And it was talking about meditation, hypnosis, ESP, out of body experience, a lot of different things. And I looked, and the author was Charles Tart, who was a professor at UC Davis, which is 20 miles down the road from me, which was where I grew up. And so I like, let me look into him. And he's very pragmatic. He's into all these things, but he's coming at it from a science. He was the director of the psychology department at UC Davis. And I looked him up on YouTube. I started watching his programs, and he was talking about meditation. And he said exactly what you just said. He said, I can't find a teacher because they say sit down and then go inside and find that space. He's like, I can't find that space. He goes, I can't do that. And so I am challenged to meditate. But he said he found an instructor that was able to, I'll say the word, allow him to do it in his own way. And so when I talk to people about meditation, it's not mindfulness meditation. People think it's this huge thing. And you mentioned box breathing. That's how I started. 8 years old, read a magazine called Black Belt Magazine. 8 years old, into martial arts. I saw an article on what's called box breathing, and I was like, I can do that. I can figure that out. My little 8-year-old self can, and I'm doing something the grown-ups are doing. And it grew from there. I won't bore you with my whole story, but it grew from there. And I've been able to work with some Zen monks, people from the San Francisco Zen Center, some great stuff. But it's just simplistic. It's cutting all the BS away. Go in a room, sit in silence, and just observe your thoughts. We all have that chattering monkey in the trees, as they call it. And that's going to happen. The greatest quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't quote it. I didn't write it down because I wasn't thinking about this, but Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Zen monk, passed away a few years ago. He was amazing, wrote a lot of books. But he says that meditation is not an evasion of life. It's a serene connection with life. And so many times that's what we think. We think we're going to go to this special place or we're going to silence all of our thoughts. That's not it. I share with people about talking about watching the clouds go by. And you just watch them go by. Or you hear the birds in the tree and you hear them and you just acknowledge, it's like, oh, and they just float past and you let it go. So not trying to achieve something, not trying to grab onto something, but actually releasing and letting go and just sitting with your thoughts. So that's where I start. Get somewhere you can be in some silence, sit in a room, close your eyes, soft gaze, whatever you can do, and just release. And then just breathe.
It's sort of, for me, it's always observation. And it
Right.
could be interior observation. How am I feeling? Right. But if you do that, if you're having an anxious moment,
Mhm.
and if you say, how am I feeling? You're liable to become more anxious.
Mhm.
Because you're going to go through every feeling that you have and you're going to over dissect it, and it's not going to resolve it. Matter of fact, at some point in time, you're going to say, I'm like going out of my head.
Right.
I tried to explain to a friend the other day, after she was telling me about her experience in meditation. I said, did she mention box breathing or any type of breathing exercise? And she said, no. And I'm like, I'm surprised, but that's okay. I said, try box breathing, count to 8 slowly, and just keep doing it. You can't think of anything because you're counting. I said, it's exactly like counting sheep.
Right.
That's where it came from. Count sheep. Because if you're trying to fall asleep and you're having these thoughts, and they're invasive, and you count sheep, by the time you get to 58, you're asleep, right? Oh, I'm going to watch the sheep jump 52, 53. It's just
Right.
going to happen. The same thing with box breathing. If you think I'm going to breathe in, breathe out, it helps me. But a lot of people, she said, I can't do that. I'm like, I do it often. And sometimes I don't even realize I'm doing it. Um, I do it to slow myself down.
Right.
So, I think there are a lot of practices, disciplines that I follow,
Hmm.
and I don't follow, here we go, a community, but I'll pick things up out from different communities because I find them to be very interesting and I appreciate them. But that doesn't mean, that I can't follow anything, because as soon as I start following, I fear I'm going to become a follower, and that doesn't allow me to think things through. I'm just saying what other people tell me to say or have told me to say or feel. And that's where, and community is very important. You need to be with like-minded people. You do. As human beings, we need to be with like-minded people. But there's like a disclaimer there. So talk to me a little bit about your feelings about community and what you're doing with community and etc.
So something you said about that reminds me of there's a joking quote that I think it was Wayne Dyer shared it, but they say in any relationship, if you're both the exact same, one of you is redundant. And I think that's true with community too. If you're in a community that everyone's like one of us, and we all look the same, you're in the wrong room. You need to find another room. You need to find a place where community is not so much being like-minded. That's a club. And what did
Or a cult.
Marcho or one of the Grouch brothers say, or whatever his name is? I'm sorry, I'm mislabeling it, but I'd never be part of a club that had me as a member.
Yes,
Joking, of course, but
right.
community is very important because there's a saying, and it gets attributed to African tribes, Native American tribes, whatever. But it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's what community is. Community is people that are there to support each other. Not a true community is someone that's going to challenge you. A true community is going to be somewhere you can grow. A true community is somewhere you can disagree with. Like if I'm not in a group, my wife and I love her to death and she's my life, but we don't agree on everything. I would be upset if we did. It would be boring. So the same way with community and the challenges, and you and I talked a little bit, off screen, so to speak, before, if you're following a doctrine, if you're following, well, this community believes this, so I believe this, you're under undue influence. If you can't disagree with someone in that group, you're under what's called mind control, but undue influence. And Stephen Hassan started off in NLP. Well, he was in NLP. He deals with people in cults, and amazing, amazing gentleman. But not to go to the extreme. But I love community. I love a place where I'm supported, where I can support others, where we can feed off of each other, where we can grow, and we can question each other, and we can agree to not always agree, and say, you know what, that's the beauty of being together. And I think for me, that's the most important thing about community, is that support, but also someone is going to help me grow and get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, if you remember the way high school was, and when social started, I thought this is going to be great. And now it's become high school.
Right.
And it's kind of sad because that I remember a good friend of mine's children that I used to take care of when he was at work. One of the Now she's like 30 years old. She would say, I want to be popular. And I would say, that's popular, that's what the popular girls are doing. And it would kill me because I ran my head right back to high school when I was going through the same thing, when I was like, I'm not popular.
Yeah.
Do I want to be popular? What is popular? What is the sacrifice of being popular?
Right.
And I think that I was anti-popular, and that ended up being me, the anti-popular girl. So whatever everyone else is doing is not what I'm doing. Or I'm questioning why is everybody doing that? Like,
Right.
does that make sense? And that tends to make me, annoying. But I can deal with that annoying person. I can. And, will I apologize to other people? Yeah, I guess I will. I will apologize to other people because I will question things. And it's not that I will openly disagree, but I'll just question them and I'll be like, oh, you haven't convinced me yet. And so that's my love affair with social, where I really was hoping to find community. And I'm not saying community doesn't exist. I'm just saying be careful because community is not, social doesn't equal community.
Right. For sure.
When a number of years ago, when I was looking for an Al-Anon group, and one of the first things every single group leader told me, if you don't like this group, don't give up, find another group.
Right.
You will find a group that you could deal with. Not every group is going to be is going to suit you. And she said, please don't give up. Right. And I didn't. And I found a good group. And I think that is the journey for people. Find a good group, like you said, that supports you, or at least is supporting the particular time and space and journey that you're in.
Right.
Right. You may find, okay, I hit a brick wall. This group I've outgrown the group. That's okay. It's okay. That doesn't mean, you need to insult anybody out the door. It's just like, like, like anything in life, you grow. So have you found, while not necessarily recommending the groups, have you found communities that are that really serve you well that you want to share?
Honestly, like I think we've all connected through LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn, once again, it's a platform, good, bad, and indifferent. There's people out there that, excuse me, that have their own agendas, and you smoke them out, just with life. You find them. So on LinkedIn, I found some amazing communities. Excuse me. Found some amazing communities that I'm a part of that have really have that. I've also found some people that I've smoked out that are like in it for what's in it for me, and I'm not there to support you. And you could be in my audience, you could be a fan, but you're not a connection. First of all, social media, I hate the term follower. It drives me nuts. I'm like, I have 1,000 followers. Well, that's okay. That's its own thing right there. But I want connections. I want communities. I want that. And I treat it that way. Mindset matters. And so that's how I look at it. But the folks that are out there looking for followers, looking for people to boost them, no, or what's in it for them. And the minute that you're not serving a purpose, they're like, oh, I'll see you when I see you. I've actually had someone that I was pretty well connected to, and I just reached out and I was like, hey, how are things going? I haven't seen you in a while and we haven't chatted. And, we had a coffee chat. And later on, I was like, oh yeah, we had the coffee chat. And I said, oh, sorry, it ended up being all about me. I wish we could have talked about, I want to learn more about you and whatever. And this person came back and was like, yeah, I'm not doing coffee chats right now. I'm just too busy and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, am I wasting your time? I'm sorry. I want to build a relationship. I want to be here for you. I'm not asking for anything, but I felt that way. And then that connection got severed, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Yes, that
So
is something about.
Right. I found an amazing community that's funny because within this community, it's like a Venn diagram. It touched a lot of other communities that I was already in. And the person is like, oh, I know this one person, Tara, and I know this one person, so and so, and this person, Jill. And I'm like, is that how I know these people? Because I know all of them and I'm a community with all of them and they know you too. So it's just interesting. Um, my local community, a lot of lessons to learn from the COVID years, the last 4 years. I think we feel we're being resilient, but we're actually ignoring stuff. There's a lot of lessons to learn. A lot of things happened. A lot of things came in. We need to all catch our breath and acknowledge it. But one of the things is that a lot of people became introverts. A lot of people went inside, and we need to look at that. Well, I can live this way, but is that the best way to live? Not necessarily. So I have I live in a town of 7,300 people. It's crazy. And I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I got involved with local businesses. I got involved with stuff, and I said, I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. And through that, I have an amazing giving community here that just wants to help me. Hey, Jason, we saw this. We want to help you out. Hey, we want to help you out. And it's reciprocal. So I found some really amazing communities that way. I found some online, a couple, and the other ones I dabble in, but I treat them for what they are. I understand what they are. I don't overinvest, and that's okay. And then but I have my other communities that's where my home is.
I think it's really important for everybody to figure out a number, like you said, Venn diagram, a number of different communities that works for them. For example, somebody wants to go to a gym. They'll eventually, if they do that enough, they'll have a group of people that go to the gym. That's good. That's good. That's your workout community, and they're
Hmm.
going to support you there.
Hmm.
You read books. Well, maybe you go to some sort of a book club. And now you're reading books and you're talking about the books with a group of other people. These are all important things that people have. I don't know. They think, oh, that's so nerdy, but it's really not. I have a walking group. I have the LinkedIn group that I reach out to, and I try to use the podcast to introduce the LinkedIn folks to some interesting concepts.
Right.
Does it work? I don't know. It's not about me.
Right.
It's not about me. It's really about I'm talking with some people about stuff that I agree with. I don't agree with that. I don't even know about,
Right.
and I'm sharing it with other people. And I hope that that my community understands that it's not a it's like Jerry Seinfeld when George says it's not about me, it's about you, or whatever. He's breaking up and he uses the term,
Right.
it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about me, type of thing. We're breaking up because it's not about you, it's about me. No, it's not about me, it's about you.
Right.
It's the opposite way around. I'm really trying to de-ego myself because I get really involved in what I think.
Right.
And sometimes I need to shut up. As my husband would say, Joy, shut up. Um, but that's why I feel that community on occasion, it's very important to be with yourself and be with others,
Hmm.
and punch those boundaries every once in a while to say, this makes me wildly uncomfortable and I don't want to go there. Right? This makes me uncomfortable, but I like it. And this makes me comfortable, so comfortable, I love it. So, there are those things.
Right.
Have I just described life in a nutshell? Perhaps.
Yeah, it's so important, talking about, I just thought about the analogy of like community is a boat and you welcome people onto this boat. And some people are willing to paddle. Some people want to just ride. And some people are taking buckets of water from outside and pouring them in the boat. you know, and you have to be open to that. The thing that talking about being open though, you said something earlier where something that I talk about a lot is having a curious and flexible mindset. That'll take you so far in life. Curious and flexible mindset. Be open to learning new things. And when you hear new things, being open to that might be the right way to think, or that might be the right way. You know, we get so stuck in it. Our universe is ever expanding. They've proved it again. They just one of those telescopes that went, a billion light years out or whatever it is. They're like, yeah, nope, it's truly expanding still. So why would I want to shrink? Because I'm part of the universe. So why would I shrink? And why would I close down? So I think finding the right community is not about niching down and like you were talking about, you've got these different groups that you go into and that, and you talked about high school. It, High school is the same as you get older too, in the sense that you have groups of friends in high school and they don't blend together. Same way as you get older, oh my goodness, I brought my these friends with my these friends. They're not going to get along, or they're not going to gel as well as I do. I'm the glue that's going to hold them together. But that's the awareness of having these different communities that you're in, is how do you fit in there? And what can you give to that community, and how can you grow from that community? Some people just show up looking for one thing, or looking for just, well, I like people that like this and I'm going to hang out with them, and they settle. That could be negative, because you could find yourself really fast going on a whirlwind, like talking about the boat analogy. That boat might be going somewhere you don't want it to go, and you have to be willing to jump out and get a life vest and jump out to stick with that, But so many people, so psychology,
Mm.
we are over invested in being ourselves. Well, I'm consistent and this is who I am. There's that one, they do it a lot of different ways in Saturday Night Live, where they're like, oh, classic Jason, that's classic Jason doing this. But that's a joke, of course, but we buy into that. Well, I can't do that because I'm this way. Well, I can't do that because I'm that way. Personally, that's a struggle. But when you get into community and you're like, well, but this community that I'm part of, we act this way. We like this person. We don't like that person. We like this. We don't like that. It's a dangerous place to be. It's a dangerous place to be, because you do have to keep your individuality as part of the group. And you have to bring that freshness and those visions and not be afraid. So many times we're like, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to this. And it's like, if you're doing it just to do it, well, that's not positive. But if you're bringing up valid points for the benefit of all, then you have to feel comfortable with that.
I was recently at I haven't done in-face networking in a long time, and I went to some networking group, and there were about 3 people talking, and I was one of the 3 people. So
Mhm.
they were mentioning, oh, you have to be positive. And I was like, well, of course you have to be. But again, I feel like they're just repeating something that somebody else said. I'm like,
Right.
duh, of course we have to be positive. I said, of course you have to be positive, but negative is also important, because it identifies what you don't want to do, where
Right.
you don't want to be, where you're not comfortable, which is what is not working for you. So if you're just saying, yes, thinking positively about everything, then you never discover something that is possibly negative that is necessary for you to move on to. I think to myself, I often say, how can I say no but yes? That's how I think positively. I think positively because I think to myself, it's not Monday and it sucks because I've got to go back to work. It's Monday, another week of opportunity. And
Right.
I've convinced myself of that. I've convinced. Now, maybe somebody thinks, that's just absurd. But it is about perception, because I can think it's Monday. It sucks. I've got all this work ahead of me. It's not my time. A friend of mine said, a friend said the other day, oh, my time is not my time. It's everyone else's time. And I said, yes, but it's your choices to give other people your time. So think about that and reclaim those choices. Because if you're giving your time up to people and it's becoming a bad thing, that's when that negative becomes a positive. But if you don't realize you're doing it, not embracing it, it's just saying, whoa, wait a minute, I'm really feeling like I'm giving my time up to everyone. I feel like I have no time for myself. That doesn't mean that you've got to pull back on everything. That means you've got to say, well, who am I giving my time to that, is perhaps not the best situation? So you've got to deal with that. You just can't be thinking, oh yes, I'm doing the right thing. It's so positive. It's so good. Everything's good. You're good. Or the opposite, where you say yes and someone says no, and you cancel them out.
Right.
That's the other thing. So that was a conversation that I was having with this group, and they looked at me like I had four heads, and that was the end of the conversation. And I thought, okay, it's all right. They don't get it.
Right.
Someday they will. But it's important to know that that it is about perception,
Mhm.
and that at some point in time, when you're perceiving something as good and it's not, you need to realign that. And if someone says no to you, that doesn't mean it's time to cancel them out. I usually give it 24 hours and I think about it.
Right.
It's it was something that I learned from my mother, and from the fact that if you say no to me, I do the opposite. I do exactly, if I'm like, I want to do this. No, you shouldn't do that. Well, guess what I'm doing? Um, so over time, I learned, what, give it 24 hours. Think about it. So I normally hold on an action for 24 hours. Um, that can be a problem when you need to jump on something. Do I jump on things? Not often, but sometimes. Very rarely. I don't jump on things because the way my mind works is that I can't settle it out. Now, a lot of people just jump on stuff.
Right.
Not me.
Yeah, I mean, making decisions, I always tell people, like, when sales, I was in sales for a lot of years, and it's always interesting to me when people try to sell me something and they're like, well, I got to know. And I'm like, well, if you need an answer right now, the answer is no. If you need an immediate answer, I'm not going to change anything based on your need of time. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to think about it. Now if it's the building's burning, you got to do something. Well, of course, you're going to make a decision. But if it's to buy something or change direction or to change your thinking, it's like, well, thank you for giving me some options or giving me an option. I'm going to take this information and think about it now. I'm not going to give you an immediate answer. And if people don't respect that, I say, if you don't respect my no, you're never going to get my yes.
Yeah. It's a tough.
So, so that's the way to think, that I think about it is that, and if people are trying to influence you, where are they coming from? And are they heart-centered? Is it something they actually want the best for me? Is it something that they're actually like that? Or is it just happens to be what they do? And they've told themselves, well, because I'm doing it, it's the right way. Or if I say it's right, it must be right because I'm always right. Once again, going back to us doubling down on us being consistent and being our true selves, where we have a lot of ownership over that. And what we're talking about today is saying, I can let that go. I could be open to change. And within that, it has to be an educated decision to change. It has to be something, like I said, curious and flexible. So I'm curious enough to listen to what you have to say and then be flexible and going, you know what? That might be right for me. That's great. Too often we just shut down and I like this restaurant only, and I like this show, and I like this. And it's like, my stepmom's 72, my dad's 86. And it's like, we were talking the other day and about eating some like Thai food or something. And they're like, oh, I haven't had Thai food. I'm like, you're 72. How have you, and you live in California, how have you not had Thai food? Well, we like what we like and we whatever. And I'm like, woo. So in those circumstances, going back to talking about community, right? Being around a group of people that are that have a similar mindset but are different than you is beneficial because they might expose you to some stuff that you wouldn't have exposed yourself to. But being open to it and not, and like you said, you found yourself in an area, in a community that wasn't for you. If anyone ever looks like you have four heads, there's most likely a chance you're not in the right space. You're not with the right people, the right group. There might be folks, of course, in that community, in that group that are a good fit for you. There's a reason that you were drawn to it. There was a reason you were invited there. But overall, you recognized that and said,
I was
not for
invited
me.
to fail. That's
Right.
the way I walked away. I was like, oh, it was one of those things again.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, oh well, I haven't been to a networking event since COVID. And I came away from it going, what just happened? Because I think I know what just happened. But I thought, okay, that's okay because you got out. It's okay. It's
Hmm.
all right. That, and there you go. It's perception. I could have walked away from that and said, what a waste. What a bunch of stupid, No, I
Right.
came out and my perception was, oh, something? I'm glad I got out. And, I met some people. And if they, at some point in time, I linked up with them in LinkedIn. Regardless, if they want to come around, they can come around. I'm giving them the option. That's what's important about, like you said, about the Thai food kind of a thing. You have to be open, more or less, to learning about different communities.
Right.
So you may be out, I'll make a little story. You're out for a walk and you walk into another neighborhood and things are strange. And you're like, oh, these people are strange. And you go back into your neighborhood and everything. That's not for me. I do want to feel a little uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Not too uncomfortable, right? Not like petrified, like, oh,
Right.
it's dark here. Where am I?
Yeah.
I want to feel uncomfortable enough so that I'm listening, I'm observing, I'm not trying to sell or do anything. I want to be like, where am I? And somebody tell me, well, what do you do here? And somebody tells me. So um, it is the same thing. I often wonder what you said about food. It really resonates with me because my husband was a meat and potatoes guy, and I love to cook, and I love to cook bizarre things.
Right.
And he would say, "What in the hell is that?" And I would say, it's just something like it's black eggplant salad. What is black eggplant salad? I'm like, oh, it's a Sudanese food. Sudanese? What? I'm not eating that. I'll see you later. I'm going to McDonald's. And that's, that was how we thought. That was how we thought. And I would often think, that's too bad. But there are a lot of people that think that way.
Hmm.
And they're uncomfortable in a community that doesn't look like them
Right.
and doesn't sound like them and doesn't talk like them. I know those people exist.
Hmm.
That's I wish we could teach kids to learn that from youth. That's something we need to teach people. Because what we do is, we teach them team sports and how to work in a team, and we teach kids all these things, and perhaps they go to different religious schools. All of these things, it's teaching them about staying within, but it's not teaching them how to reach out.
Right.
And I think there's a need to do both. And reaching out is difficult. Doesn't mean that you reach out and you agree with every time you reach out, you agree with people. You reach out, you listen,
Right.
you critically think it over. And now
Hmm.
you understand. Oh, you know what? There's like 5 ways to look at the same situation. And there is no answer. There's no right way. It has, 5 ways to Sunday.
Yeah, we talked about this before we got on the mic, so to speak, about the echo chamber. And that's the scary part. And that's where, but you could find comfort. Now it's false comfort, but you can find comfort in when everyone's saying the same thing that you are. And you're like, oh, well, these are my people. This is my tribe. This is my whatever. They feel exactly the same way I do. And it's like, be careful. be careful, because if someone's not challenging you, you're not going to grow. You know, they say steel sharpens steel, or something like iron sharpens iron, something like that. So that is like-minded in that way. But if everyone's agrees, then that's a scary place to be in, you know. And something that, and I'm gonna, maybe I'll step on some toes here, but we said already that we're going to agree or not agree. But let me say this. So the economist, Paul Zane Pilsner, he's an amazing person. He was with Reagan. He was at a very young age. He was with the Reagan administration, and he's an economist and very smart guy. He's actually what do they call it in Jewish, rabbi. He's also a rabbi and just an amazing person, really gives back to the community. But he talks about growing up in like the 50s in New York, and talked about, you know, he knew his neighborhood and he was there, and that was the world that he knew. And then he went off, he's obviously a really smart guy. And then he went off to school and he went to Princeton, and he saw all these rich kids with all these expensive cars and all this money and all this stuff. And he had no idea that existed. And, you know, we get in that challenge if, and this isn't this, I don't want to make it anything that smells like political, but, you know, about talking about people getting bused to different school districts. If you don't have an exposure to a different way of life, you're going to be challenged. And whether it's seeing people that have less than you, or and recognizing that with empathy and compassion, or seeing people that have a lot more than you and realizing you can dream a lot bigger than what you just see on TV. Now, obviously nowadays we have internet and you could see anything, but that's like when I say, well, I've been to Germany, but I flew through Rhine-Main Air Base and stayed there for 2 days when I was on my way when I was in the Marine Corps. I didn't really go to Germany, but I was on the ground in Germany. It's the same thing. You know, you can have these experiences, but not really have the experiences. When I lived in Japan, and I was with the culture and I was with the people and stuff like that. And that's a different environment. So that's the difference between, you know, we have exposure. Well, anyone could look something up online. It's not the same thing. But that's the joy of having a widespread community, of being opened up to that and not saying, well, this person's not like me, so they don't really fit in my community, or this person doesn't believe what I do, or they don't have the same economics or education or whatever. It's being open to all of that and being exposed to all of that. You know, the point, once again, I'll wrap this comment up with the echo chamber, where everyone is saying the same thing. But what happens is then if you're packaged and you're all saying the same thing, well, when they go over here, are you going to keep going with them, or are you going to once again have that mindset to say, I don't agree with you? You know, will you stand up and say, that's not for me? Or are you going to get swept up in where this is what we think?
You know, I somewhat fear our current situation, because in many cases that's exactly what's happening. Is that you're in a community where you feel comfortable, and it's an echo chamber, and suddenly they take off for whatever happens. Odd things happen. Maybe the more popular person, or the one that actually is able to speak and engage other people, and they take off, they go somewhere, and now the whole group is going that way. This is where it appears social is taking all of us. It's taking us into individual rabbit holes. And we need to take ourselves out of the rabbit holes, because it's not, you know, there are a lot of trends, there are a lot of conversations, there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of information out there.
Mm-hmm.
So much information that what did I say today? That knowledge is getting lost with all the information. T.S. Eliot. We've got so much knowledge that it's literally lost in the shuffle, because we can't even manage it anymore. And so when somebody takes that burden off of us and says, no, we're going to think this way, you're like, oh, thank God I'm thinking that way. And now, you know, you've got one less problem. in life. And I'd say we need to, every once in a while, sorry, we need to be stressed and we need to be anxious, because that's how we're going to figure out our own problems. If it's a easy ride, what's going on here? That's the whole thing with positive thinking. It's like, okay, I get it. You want to be in a positive mode, but you have to positively figure problems out, and you have to positively face problems,
Right.
to solve them. And if you instead say this is a problem, it's negative, and you sideswipe it, and you think that's a solution, you're not figuring stuff out, right?
Right.
Thai food, it's weird. I don't know. No, right? Well, that's not, Thai food. What does it taste like? Well, I don't know. Well, what do you like? Cilantro? What do you like? Lemongrass? Well, I don't know what those foods are. Well, why
Right.
don't you taste it?
Right.
Why don't you figure it out? Do you sometimes like hot and spicy? Oh, yeah, I like a taco now and then.
Yeah.
You have to start to, you come back and say, oh, I had tried Thai food a few times, different restaurants. Not for me. Not for me. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be the one to say spicy food. No, not a good thing for me. I don't mind different foods, but spicy, when you get hot, I'm having a problem with that. So, again, it's sort of like double-edged sword. We need community. We're social animals, but we also need to grow, and we need to be able to get that support that allows us to grow within the community. If the community is going to tell you that, oh, if you cross this line, you're out of the community, that's not good. You need to be literally graduate out of the community. Like,
Yeah.
oh, yay, you're graduating into the next level of the community. That's okay. It's like, oh gosh, there's a lot of different cultures that do not dreaming. When the boys get to a certain age and they go out and they have to do it themselves. And what the devil is it called? Yeah, words lose. I lose words left and right. It's sort of like when you're a debutante at 15, you get up, you go to a big party, and you meet all the other debutantes, and you're introduced to the next level. I had the word and it flew out of my head. It's some sort of it's like an induction. It's what
Or
do they
like a
do?
rites of passage.
Rites of passage, but it's like our indigenous peoples. They had is it dreamscape? What the devil is it called?
I'm not sure where you're going. I'm sorry.
Sorry, but it's where when the men are and men do it traditionally more than women, because for whatever reason, because it's action oriented, where the men are they go out and they experience an adventure on their own,
Hmm.
and it's called something, and it's as I said, many indigenous cultures do that with their men, so
Right.
that the men can be inducted into the next level. They're no longer boys, now they're men.
Yeah.
So they have to go do some battle, go do some journey on their own. Oh, I'm not going to start typing and looking for it on the internet, because I'll go down a rabbit hole. But I think that everybody needs to do that. They need to, women too, in different ways than men, because men are action oriented and women need to be careful. They can't do the same things as men can do. I'm sorry to say, because they risk putting themselves in a situation where perhaps they're not stronger or strong enough. They need to be aware that men are stronger, so men can beat the crap out of somebody. And do you want, as a woman, to be put in a situation where you have to beat somebody up? No, because that's not, you have to think about that. So the journey that women take, usually, it's an emotional journey, and Men don't take that. That's somewhat of the difference between men and women. Men don't take that emotional journey. They take that action-oriented journey. Women take an emotional journey and they don't take an action-oriented journey. So the differences that are inherent in our physical acuity can change ourselves. Women can be action-oriented
Mm-hmm.
and men can be emotionally oriented once they take the natural journey first. In other words, as a young woman, I fell in love, I got hurt, and I realized, oh, I've got to take care of myself, right? As a female, because there are a lot of things, a lot of problems I can have that are female oriented, and I have to be aware of those. Men, I wasn't a man, so I can't tell you, but a man, maybe he falls in love, maybe he gets hurt, and maybe he has a journey that he goes on. But most likely he has a few fights with other guys and he realizes, hey, man, this is uncomfortable. I got to learn to take care of myself. So as we're growing, the journeys that we take, they can switch polarity where, okay, you know what I am as a female now. Now I'm ready to take those action-oriented journeys. Now I'm willing to see how strong I am. Physically strong I am. And men can say, and men need to say, I need to find out how emotionally strong I am. Because most men never go there and most women never go there.
Right.
And the community doesn't necessarily support both.
Depending on what community you're in, yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think that's is it something new? I don't think it's something new. I think it's fairly recognized. Oh, I mean, why in the world would there be a mythology of Amazons if it wasn't recognized that women can be warriors, right? I like myths a lot. And I will always go back to mythology and say that you don't create a myth because you don't have something to do that day. The myths are created to explain something.
Right. A
To
vision.
fill a void, to validate any number of reasons. So I've often think, well, Amazons, the Amazon women, they're there for a reason. And what's the story that they're telling us, aside from the fact that they were all I can't remember. I don't know if it was Hercules or Bellerophon, or I don't remember what Greek guy supposedly defeated the Amazons. Some myth. But it's interesting because as community goes, every once in a while we need to switch it up.
Right.
Check out the community that seems to be something every once in a while. It seems to be something that we're not, like I said, not totally comfortable in. I'm not saying that you have to become an athlete if you don't like athletics. But if you're
Right.
thinking to yourself, oh, I would like to get into shape, but I'm not that type of a person. Well, let's just go to the gym and check it out.
Right.
Because it is something that I did. And when I found out, I'm not that type of person. But I wouldn't have known that unless I went. And
Right.
what I discovered was I'm the type of person that can walk miles. Walk miles. So why don't I just walk miles?
Yeah.
Right? But I wouldn't have figured that out. I would not have figured that out unless I made the journey. And that's the oh damn. After the meeting, after our little conversation, I'll look it up and I'll be like, that's the word.
Right.
Not
And
dreamscape, but I keep thinking dreamscape, which is why I can't think of the word.
almost like a vision quest, but
That's the
physical.
word. Vision quest. Thank you.
And let me say something, because we started this off as we talked about we might agree, we might not agree. And I think this is a great example of the beauty of community and not having to sound the same. I'll be honest with you, a lot of what you said about gender roles and identity and stuff like that, I don't agree with. I have different feelings about that, about who can do what, and I think that anyone could do anything and stuff. And that's okay. And I could feel that way, and you could feel the way that you do, and we could be here having a conversation. And of course, we're not going to have a conversation around that, because that's not the focus of our conversation. But we could be here in the same space and not agree with everything we say, and we
Right.
can disagree on points, and we have our own viewpoint, and we have our own reasons for having viewpoints. That's the beauty of having conversations. The problem is we all stopped talking,
Right.
and it became, we don't when I see community, I think of a beautiful flexible thing. But when some people see community, they see fences, and they see guards, and they see stakes in the ground, and it's like, that's not. Community is a flexible living thing where we all coexist, and we all can feel. We can have different feelings about politics, we can have different feelings about gender, we can have different feelings about um, football teams, making light of it. And that's okay. And let's talk about it. Let's find out, well, why do you support this political person and I don't? Why do you think that this is okay for these people to do? Why do you believe that this action that someone takes is okay, and whatever? And let's talk about it. And let's have a conversation. And if we don't agree, that's okay. That's all right. And let's
I
live
often
together.
think, I often think that for the most part, um, unless people are just mean spirited, I think for the most part, everybody, I want to say everybody feels the same way. I don't know of anybody that says, let's be mean to children. Let's just be really mean to them because being mean is good, right? I don't know
Right.
anybody says that.
Right.
So anybody who starts arguing about how to be good to children, they're not arguing. They're trying to discover how to be good to children.
Right.
And so when you get to a point where like, oh, well, you think that burning books is good. Well, I never said. That's when people say, no, we came from the same spot. How to be good to children. I'm not talking about burning books. I'm
Right.
talking about how, right? And a lot of people I have said this to, where I'm like, I think we started off at the same point. No, we didn't. And I'm like, that's the problem. That's when you become confused and you really think that everybody's so different. What is difficult for people, unless again you're just mean, and I'm not talking about mean people because
Right.
or pathologically insane people. I'm not talking about those people. I'm
Right.
talking about most people, and I don't know how to talk about most people, but I am. I would say most people have concepts and definitions of things that other people don't understand. So if I were to explain something, you would think, well, my definition is different. That's the conversation that needs to be had. It's like, well, what is your definition of
Right.
female energy? Right? What is that? What do you mean by that?
Right.
And that's when you start to learn how other people think. And then you're like, well, you know what? I think the same thing. I just don't call it female energy or
Right.
whatever
Right.
it is.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of people think at the core, they think the same way. Who the devil wants anyone to be miserable?
Right.
Again, mean people do, but I'm not talking about mean people.
Right.
Right? So I would say that, you know, um, when I'm having a conversation, and I'm not going to say politics, this or that, I'm just going to say, when you're having that political conversation and the person says, well, I don't know how those people think that way.
Right.
I'm like, oh God, that's where we're at. I don't want to do that. I
Right.
do not want to do that because I'd rather find out, why do you think that way? And then you find we both want to be good to kids
Right.
and we're not solving that problem because we're all thinking, I've got to do it this way and I've got to do it this way. And we're diametrically opposed. and we never solve how to be good to kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in NLP, we talk about chunking up or chunking down, the big picture to the details. And it's exactly what you just said. And it's about, so can we agree that this is what we're trying to achieve? Okay. Now, how are we going to achieve that? And that's when you start chunking down into the details. Well, we're going to do this. Do we agree? Well, yeah. Okay. Let's chunk down. Okay. How about then we do it this way? Do we agree? Uh-huh. Okay. And then we're going to do this. Oh, I don't agree with you there. Okay. So let's go back up again. So we agree that we want to accomplish this. We just don't agree on how we're going to accomplish it. So let's talk about that. But we're so polarized in certain ways right now. Communities become polarized that well, I don't agree in the smallest detail, so I'm not going to agree on the biggest information.
Right. And it's like everybody needs to be identified, which we had thought was a good thing. I need to know my identity. We thought was a good thing, but now it becomes, this is my identity. No,
Right.
it may be for the moment, and that's okay. You
Right.
may decide anything, and whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. If you feel strongly, do it. Learn from it so that tomorrow is another day. And whatever it is, maybe you go deeper into it, or maybe you say, wait a minute, I'm there, but I'm slightly different from everyone else, and that's okay. And I'm just going to take a little step to the side, a little step to this side, and feeling okay that you could do that without people calling you, well, you're this or you're that. That's
Right.
what's so polarizing. And I find that I don't have a label. I feel certain ways about certain things, and then I go off and I'm like suddenly like, oh, well, you're over there now. I'm like, no, I just think what I think.
Right.
I think what I think. And I don't know the answers. And I'm not everybody. And somebody can tell me about an experience that they've had that may change my whole outlook in life. And I'm looking for those people to do that. I'm looking for that black eggplant salad that's like, what is it? What's in it? Peanut butter and eggplant. What?
Right.
How could you put those two things together? I don't know, but I'm going to try.
Right.
So, just to do those things so I can basically say, oh, you know what? I just sidestepped to the left or to the right, or forward or back, or sideways, or up and down, whatever. And still be allowed in the community.
Right.
You'll have people that, I don't like canceling people. I will say, given enough experience, that so and so is really not a friend. So and so is someone I know.
Mhm.
And so they're not a friend. And using that word friendship, something that I went through in my life, and I had to really look at it saying, who are my friends? And am I a friend? Like, am I a good friend? Or am I just whatever, all the things that I think that other bad people are? And I realized that that's that community thing. We all need people. Some people are going to say yes to us all the time,
Mhm.
and occasionally say no, right? Some people are just going to always say no. That doesn't mean they aren't your friends. That means that that's their method. If they're always saying no, and you can deal with that, that's not someone you should cancel. That may be someone who really cares, but just thinks differently.
Right. Yeah.
But the person that says no, the person that doesn't say no, but that everything about them is negating you, that's time to move on.
Right.
That's the difference between saying no and people that negate you. They don't support you. They don't have time for you. They don't listen to you. They never contact you. All of these things. Those are people that you need to walk away from.
Right. Yeah. If people are always showing up with their hands out like this,
Yeah.
like there we go, like this, that's not your community. Now we all need help, and we all can help each other in many different ways. And I might be able to help someone with their mental health, and someone might be able to help me out financially, and but it's a give and take. But if you show up in this community and you want two things, if you show up and you're like, I want everyone to think the way I think, and I want people to be there for me, and I'm not necessarily going to be there for them, then you're not as we used to say, you're going to get voted off the island. Going back to that old TV show, you're getting voted off because you're not a member of what we're trying to accomplish here, and that's something to be aware of. And it's not about putting people in boxes, because that becomes an issue when you start putting people. Well, if you don't fit inside this box, then you can't be with me. That's not it. And at the same time, be flexible and be like, well, how can we learn this? And I think we're both saying the same thing. It's like, let's be open and let's talk. That's community. Let's communicate. When you
Yeah.
stop communicating, you're not in there. If you have a group of people that you support, let's say on LinkedIn, and we all support each other and we like each other's stuff and we go on each other's shows and all that stuff, and then someone just checks out and stops supporting and doesn't show up, and they're like, I don't have time for you, whatever. Well, then they're not part of the community. They're not reciprocal. And it has to be something where it comes and goes back and forth. And that's it. That's what I got to say. If
Yeah.
if the person's not there for you, that's it.
I often think, when I get to a point where, like, oh, this person's dissing me, right? And I get angry.
Mhm.
This person's dissing me. How dare they? I, that's that positive perspective again. I interrupt myself and I say, one, really, is this really something you want to deal with right now?
Right.
Two, they got some stuff they're taking care of right now. Whatever that is, it's not your journey, it's theirs. Leave them be. They may come around. And if and when they do, that's fine. And if and when they don't, that's fine too. That's fine too. Let it go. You got other things to do, maybe other people, other fish to fry. You got other things to do.
Right.
And so, again, that's why I say I force a pause. I turn no's into yeses all the time. And I don't do that by saying, no one can say no to me. I say, you have every right to diss me, not like me, not listen to me, disagree with me. I have 24 hours to figure it out. And anger is a viable emotion, but it is not a state of mind that I wish to live in.
Right.
Whereby, if you really make me angry in 24 hours, I have the problem, not you. I need to figure out why you made me so angry. Is it something that I need to work out, or have you really hurt my feelings?
Right.
In which case it's something I really need to work out. If somebody's making you that angry all the time, if you're in a situation where you're daily feeling anger, you need to work that anger out in some way, shape, and form. If you're thinking that, your community is whatever, and you're angry about the people you're hanging out with, a job, for example, that's a
Right.
community, right? You're at a
Hmm.
you're at a job, and it's a team. You've got to work with the team. Sorry. It's like
Yeah.
sports. You can't go against, you can't be out there running the ball this way when everybody else is over there. That's not. So you're in a company. And if every day you come back thinking, I hate this job, I hate those people, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And you're thinking it's me. In the beginning, you could say, it's got to be me. It's me. I've got a bad attitude. So you try to adjust your attitude. At some point in time, you've got to think to yourself, this is not my culture.
Right.
And you just don't leave it there. You've got to say, well, what is my culture? So for 1,000 years, 1,000 years? No. 1,000 days? I don't know. For a very long time, when I worked in corporate, I would come back and I would say, I just have a bad feeling about how I acted today. I have a bad feeling about the way that meeting went. I have a bad feeling about this project. I never came back from corporate thinking, yes, I never came back. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure that out. I couldn't figure it out. It's like something wrong with me. Something wrong with me. And then I figured it out. I'm not the follower.
Right.
That's simple. And so much of a maverick, entrepreneurs are mavericks, inventors are mavericks, solopreneurs are mavericks. But no one taught us in school, when you grow up, you should become a maverick. And, it was like you get a job, you make money, or you get married, you raise a family, whatever it is. Those
Right.
are the things that we were told when we were growing up. And I was, I don't want to make it sound like that I thought I was hot. I wasn't hot. I was just different. I thought differently. I tried to solve problems differently. I never fought people so much as I fought processes,
Right.
thought them through, tried to figure it out. And in many cases, you're told, here's the job. This is how you accomplish it. Go accomplish it. And every day you do that. And I would do that. And then like a month would go by and I'd be like, oh, you know what? I've done this. It's no more of a challenge. Give me more of a challenge. And people would do that. And I was getting promoted, right? That worked for me until I got to the point where there's nothing else. That's when I had to move out of a job. I might get promoted to a level where there's no more promotion, in which case I'd have to move on to another job or move on to a different level, like manager.
Right.
So I would be some sort of an associate level, and then the next level would be manager, and I would get to that point and I would say, I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to manage people. I like things. I couldn't figure that out for the longest time. I could not figure that out. I kept thinking there's something wrong with me. And then I realized I like things, not people. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's no room for that in corporate.
Mhm.
Unless you just want to do this, stay there, and they think that there's something wrong with you if you just do this and stay there. I like that. It's like I could do the same thing forever, but what I do is solve problems, different problems. That's what I like to do. Email marketing is perfect for that because there's always different problems for different customers. Perfect for me. I fell into it. It was perfect. So I learned that for myself and not through the community.
Right.
And that's when people need to take the negative and learn how to turn it around for themselves. It's a skill. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. And there are a lot of people, okay, the concept of getting caught beneath the wheel or being in an environment where I don't want to use use the term victim because I wasn't a victim, but you're different and you're not getting handed anything on a platter. You've got to figure it out. You can just say, that's it, I'm a loser, I'm done. I had those moments. I really did. I had those moments.
Yeah.
And then I realized, so everyone needs to do that. That's the hardest journey. That's the, what did we call it before? The vision quest?
Right.
That's the vision quest. And that has nothing to do with male or female.
Right.
Because we all have different energy.
Mm-hmm.
We all have, like, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't solve problems. Just because you're a man doesn't mean that you can't feel empathetic towards other people. So we all have different abilities, these different skill sets because of, how we've grown up, who we've met, all the experiences that we've had. And we need to, at some point, say, this is uniquely me. These are all the unique things that have made me me.
Right.
Me. And this is where I need to go with that. And I need to find my own confidence.
Yeah, I love it. And that's, wrapping all this up together, what you just said is, I was talking earlier about the connection to self, connection to others. having a strong connection to self, what you were just talking about, that's the key because that's step one. I say those three connections in order because that's what it really, what I believe and what I teach, that's the order it goes in. If you're not connected to yourself, you're not going to be good for others. If you're not connected with others, you're not going to be able to really acknowledge that higher power, that source. But something else that I was thinking about when you were saying that, yes, we have to be connected to ourselves. We have to be strong in ourselves because guess what happens? If then we get into that community and we're not strong within ourselves, we're wishy-washy. And then we're more likely just to go with wherever it takes us. Because we're like, oh yeah, well, whether it's people pleasing or whether it's wanting to make friends or, a lot of words that we use to talk about that, whatever it is, you're more likely to just follow the crowd if you're not strong within yourself. And that's the biggest challenge. That's the hardest challenge, actually, is to be strong within yourself, confident in yourself enough to say, no, I'm not going to do that. But I don't like you now. Oh, well, then you don't like me now. That's okay. Then that's all right. You know what? I love you. I love you because you're a human on this earth having a journey. Whether you like me or not, that's on you. And that's okay. And if we can't disagree on something, then that connection wasn't as strong as I thought it was. The people that are closest in my life know that I have different thoughts than them, and they know that I don't think everything they think, and that's okay. And that's why our connection is so strong. So I think that's the key is, having a strong connection to self, and easier said than done. It takes a lot of work. It's a journey, but the stronger your roots are, the better it is. And then you go into community, and then you can be a part of that community and say, I feel we should do this, I feel we shouldn't do that, or I do this and I don't do that, and be confident and say, you know what, that's okay if you don't like it and you don't agree. That's all right. But we are connected. We are a group.
And we whether we want to admit it or not, we are all connected.
Yeah.
Because I really do think fundamentally it's all the same.
Right.
It's just there's many points of divergence, but we're still using the same equipment.
Yeah.
Maybe it's damaged. Maybe it's in perfect shape. Maybe it needs to be recharged. There's any amount of things going on, but as we allow ourselves to go through the process and the steps and the dance and everybody at some point in time says, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there
Right.
before.
Yeah.
It reminds me of getting in the car with my husband. And if I'm driving, I'll start driving somewhere and he'll say, make a left here. And I'm like, I'm driving. Well, it's faster. It's faster? What, we're going to get there 5 seconds earlier?
Right.
Right? I was very passive. When he was driving, I don't care where he went, he could go where. Matter of fact, I was observing the street names so that at this point in time, I'll be able to say the name of the street and he'll say, and he would say, I didn't even know they had a street name. I just made a left. I'm like, yeah, but I observed the street name.
Right.
So, those differences make us really the same because while he's learning this space and time differential,
Right.
again, this is what the difference is in between people, and some of the differences are between the way different people think. I am thinking nomenclature. I'm mapping, and it's like that. That's a skill set for me. While his skill set is different. So he's thinking the quickest way to get there. And when he builds something, he's thinking the strongest way to do it, the best way to do it, whatever. And I'm thinking, what tools did you use? What stores did you go to? And it's just the difference in thinking.
Right.
The difference in, but we're both experiencing the same thing. And that's when the skill sets complement each other, where it's not, oh, you're not in my community, you don't think like me. It's a compliment. It's a compliment. And so um, he was, he had a certain way of looking at things. I completely different way of looking at things. And he would always joke and say, you know, we're complete opposites. And I'd
Right.
be like, well, we both like to watch the same TV shows. We both like to do da, 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 da. And I would go through all the things that are different, the same. And he'd look at me and go, yeah, that's true. And I'd be like, we complement each other.
Right.
You know, that means that in an emergency, I would bow down to him because I knew safest, quickest, best. I'll be too busy going, what is he getting over there? Let me write a note about that.
Right.
He's ready to go. Let's go. We're going. Emergency.
Yeah.
And that's again, these are journeys that everyone needs to take a little bit inside themselves and then outside themselves. And building a bunch of different communities around them that are unique to them. You know, your house is unique to you, and all the communities around you are unique to you. So you may have a religious community, you may have a running community, you may have a reading community, you may have a work community, you may have all these different communities. They're different. You need them. You can't just say, that's it, I hate people. That you can't do.
Yeah.
And there are people that do that.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, there are people that do that. And that's because, you know, of negative experiences. One of the things that I was thinking of when I was saying that, and it flew out of my mind, oh, I need help with my mind. Do I need to take neuro pills? That when people divorce themselves from everything, that's a mental health issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's, you know, there are many things that people go through where I'm like, okay, you know, that's okay. You're okay. You're all right. You're completely human. It's okay. You're on the, you know, you're on the good ship lollipop. But
Right.
there's a point where you're like, whoa. And I've been there. I've been to situations where I'm like, I need help. I just need to talk with somebody.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, the people that I talked to were able to help me. And fortunately for me, the people I recognized who weren't able to help me, I was, at some point in time, I let go of them. So no, I never became a Satanist. I was in a community once where people were practicing witchcraft. And my husband said to me, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm observing. He goes, well, don't observe too close. Right. And I was interested enough, just, you know, I was intrigued. Like, what are they doing? And listening to my husband at the same time. And both leveled me out.
Right.
Both leveled me out.
Yeah.
So, and that's what everyone needs. Like, yo, what are you doing? Oh, you know, fortunately, again, you know, I had a good relationship with my parents. So I think that I was always able to do this. If you're ever in a situation where you're finding that nothing's working, you have to admit you need help.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. Yep. And we find that help where we find that help. And it's different for everyone else. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? That community is different for everyone. So what it means to you, how it looks, how it shows up, and how you show up, it's your journey. It's your path, you know. So I know neither of us are here to tell people how they have to live or how they should live. That's not our reality. We're expressing what we've seen, you know, through on our path on this journey. And you know, I share that my company's name is One Path, and that comes from a Ram Dass quote that says we're all just walking each other home. You know, and there's a lot of trails that go to the top of the mountain, but the top of the mountain is the top of the mountain. But bless you for whatever trail you want to take, whatever that looks like for you. I respect that and I honor that. And that's okay. And I think if we all respected each other in that sense, we'd be in a much better place.
Yeah. Oh, my dogs are having a fight. There's a high-waisted skinny cat. Tasha, come. Tasha. And here she comes. Thank you. Good girl. Can you stop beating up all the other dogs, please? Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. So, yeah. So, it's, I would conclude everything that we're saying with this is never underestimate yourself and always be aware that someone can contribute something to you. So when you're at a level where you're feeling like you're really thirsty, someone can offer you water. Take it. Take it.
Yeah.
Take it. Don't be afraid to jump out of the box, but know when it's time to contemplate.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of life. That really is the hardest part of life.
Yeah.
It's not so much I don't have enough money or, any of those things, because if you could figure it out, you can, eventually make money, or you'll find food, or you'll get shelter if
Right.
you're able to figure it out. It's not that I've been born into a situation where I've got lots of money. I can manage any job because I've got lots of connections. That's not necessarily going to make you happy.
Right.
You may be the most miserable person in the world in that situation. It's really, it's about all of those communities that fulfill you. You fulfill them. It's a give and take, and you go to bed at night going, "Yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah.
I can't wait for tomorrow because we're going to do it all over again." If if you're having that problem, like I said, if you're having that problem where you're like, I don't want to wake up tomorrow because I got so much stuff on the platter, I can't deal with it. That's when you need to go back and say, what's going on here? Now, it's okay. I got to figure it out. It's okay. Right. I may not have the answer. That's okay.
And that's okay.
The journey starts with trying to figure it out. And it took me years. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that I was miserable for years, but I was in a situation where I was like, I got to figure this out. Eventually, it's going to happen. And it did.
Yeah.
It did. Is there anything lesson that you want to share with folks?
No, just thank you for having me on and joining the community. And it's a great conversation. And I love the fact that, like we talked about, it was a great example of, we don't agree on every single thing, but you know what? We had a good conversation and we could share and we could touch the points where we do touch and agree that we've got other ideas. And that's what makes us individuals. No, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on YouTube. I'm on Insight Timer with my One Path Coaching. Insight Timer is a website for, they offer everything from free meditations and free classes to paid versions of classes. And I have my meditations are on there. And so you can go Insight Timer. It's an app. It's an app on there. And I'm out there. And, if anyone wants to reach me, it's onepathcoaching@gmail.com. I love to talk to folks. And I know you're going to just share my information as well with your community. And thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being a guest. And that's a wrap on a Friday. Thank you very much.